Hello and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do a video on upcoming book releases I'm really excited for, with the caveat that a lot of these books have already been released, that some of these books have been released in hardback, but I don't like reading hardbacks and I don't really like owning hardbacks unless they're like a special edition. So I'm waiting for the paperbacks of these books, and that is the vast majority of the books I have on this list. I have two that are releases that haven't been released at all, which I'm excited for, but it will take me ages to get around to reading them because I will wait until the paperback is released. If they do have hardback releases, which they probably will, and yeah, they both will. They're both by well-renowned authors. So without much further ado, let's get into it. The first book I'm excited about is Katabasis by R.F. Kuang. It is, let me read you the description. Katabasis, noun, ancient Greek. The story of a hero's descent into the underworld. Grad student Alice Law has only ever had one goal, to become the brightest mind in the field of analytic magic. But the only person who can make her dream come true is dead and inconveniently in hell. And Alice, along with her biggest rival, Peter Murdoch, is going after him. But hell is not as the philosophers claim. Its rules are upside down, and if she's going to get out of there alive, she and Peter will have to work together. That's if they can agree on anything. Will they triumph or kill each other trying? So, it sounds a little bit of dark academia, which I believe Babel by the same author was. And contrary to my aesthetic and the outfit I'm wearing right now, I'm not that much of a dark academia girly. I think mayhaps because I think I would have been way more into it back when I was in school, in university. I am in the process of applying for a master's, so maybe when I start doing my master's I'll get really into dark academia, because it does sound like the type of thing I would like, but right now it isn't. With that being said, I loved the Poppy War trilogy. I thought that they were great. So I haven't read Babel, I haven't read Yellowface, but I have read the Poppy War trilogy, and I love Greek myths. And I know that this isn't a direct Greek myth, but it has some influences in there which I love. So I'm really looking forward to that one. I'm hoping that I like it. I don't suppose it's going to be anything remotely similar to, well, it won't be, but the only thing I can think of that I read that was more of like an academic setting and involved retellings of Greek myths in a little bit was The Secret History by Donna... Forgotten her name. Wasn't intending to talk about her today. Forgot her name. I didn't like that. I know it's a super, super popular book, but I didn't like it. And so that's probably why I haven't read much more within that kind of genre, although that's a lot less fantasy than this is going to be. But yeah, I'm excited. I'm really looking forward to it. Like I said, I really love the Poppy War trilogy, and I've always intended to read more of her work, and I love the cover. I'll put a picky up of the cover. It looks so sick. I hope that the UK cover looks like that. I hope the paperback cover looks like that. Probably fucking won't, but here we go. Who can do but hope? The next book that I'm excited for is The Rosefield? Oh my god, I've already forgotten its name. Looked at it 2 seconds ago. The Rosefield by Philip Pullman, which is the third in the Book of Dust series, which is the sequel to His Dark Materials. I'll read you the premise before we get into it. Lyra, what will you do when you find this place in the desert, the opening to the world of the roses? Defend it, Lyra said. Die defending it. When readers left Lyra in the secret Commonwealth, she was alone in the ruins of a deserted city. I can never say the name. Pantaleon had run from her, part of himself, in search of her imagination, which he believed she had lost. Lyra travelled across the world from her Oxford home in search of her demon, and Malcolm, loyal Malcolm, too journeyed far from home towards the Silk Roads in search of Lyra. In the Rosefield, their quest converge in the most dangerous, breathtaking and world-changing ways. They must take help from spies and thieves, griffins and witches, all friends and new, learning all the while the depths and surprising truths of the Aleuthermometer, can't pronounce that either. All around them, the world is aflame, made terrifying by fear, power and greed. As they move east towards the red building that will reunite them and give them answers on dust, on the special roses, on imagination, so too does the magisterium, at war with all Lyra holds dear. So, I am a big time fan of his Dark Materials. I loved them back in the day. I have, wait there. You just wait. I have these special edition copies. Fortunately, they were right to hand. Genuinely unintended. So I have these. Can you see? There's the golden compass. There's the subtle knife. And there's the amber spyglass. And then all together on the side, it says his Dark Materials. I love his Dark Materials. I read them when I was younger. I don't know when they came out. 2002. I didn't read them when they came out. I definitely didn't read them when I was that young. But I read them as like a mid-teenager. Loved them. As well, this is an absolute side rant. As a kid, under 10, couldn't tell you exactly how old, but primary school, I loved Chronicles of Narnia and I read them all. And when I got to the last one, I was so angry at what I felt was ham-fisted approach to religion, which I hadn't picked up on any of the previous books. I didn't recognise the Christian analogies in Chronicles of Narnia at all. And when I got to the last one, and it was like, who was it? Susan didn't get to go to heaven because she didn't believe strong enough. I was a small child and I was pissed off. I was so angry. So then a few years later, I read his Dark Materials, which was like, hey, religion's actually. Look at all the bad this does. And there was the fucking angels bit and everything. And I ate that up. I loved it. And it's still one of my favourite. I do now as an adult, I look more fondly upon Chronicles of Narnia because I'm kind of like, okay, fine, yeah, it was religious propaganda, but the talking animals were really cute. But this has the talking animals. It has the talking animals and less of the propaganda. Well, it is, I guess. It's anti-religion propaganda in a way. But anyway, loved it. So I was really excited for the sequels. The first one, Le Bel Sauvage, I liked. I didn't like The Secret Commonwealth that much, and it annoyed me so much because, for those who don't know, The Secret Commonwealth originally was a book by a priest or a pastor called Robert Kirk, and he was based in Scotland, and he wrote The Secret Commonwealth, which was about his parishioners, his flocks, believes in the fae. And it was he chronicled their beliefs, he chronicled the different fae, things like that. And Robert Kirk had a really interesting death as well, and funeral, which maybe I'll go into at a different time. So anyway, that whole Secret Commonwealth, and I already was super into that. I'd read The Secret Commonwealth, the original one by Robert Kirk, literally the same year that I ended up reading it by Philip Pullman. So I was super excited, thinking that it was going to be, intertwined in some way with that. And there was references and it was a bit, but it didn't go hard enough for me. I felt that it lacked a lot of charm of his Dark Materials. And trigger warning for violence against women, particularly sexual violence against women. Lyra gets attacked. It's a long time since I've read it, but in my memory, she gets assaulted way too much. And also there was the thing with the teacher who had known her since she was a kid, but now she's old. He's like, oh, it's so bad, but she's so lovely. And it was presented as like, this is a good guy. I'm not so sure he is, actually. I'm not so sure he is. Thinking off the top of my dome, I'm not so sure a teacher, even if he's a youngish teacher who remembers her as a child, and he's now like, oh my God, it's wrong, but it feels so right. Disgusting. And I didn't like any of that. And it just felt like, oh, she's an adult now. She's an adult. Look at what happens to adults. And I know that his Dark Materials had horrible things happening to children. I know that. But this just felt like it was like, she's a woman now and all this and this and this. In a way that just sucked the charm out of the original novels, where bad things were happening, but it was still charming novels. It just didn't feel charming at all. And then reflecting upon La Belle Sauvage, which I didn't look up, which I liked at the time, there was a woman who was literally R-worded in that. And it's like, these are the darker, grittier, this is what's happening now. And I just wasn't with it. It was always dark and gritty, but I didn't like that. It just, like I said, I understand that those things happen to many people and women and children, and he might have wanted to write it as like an acknowledgement of the things that people go through, which in a different series I could appreciate, but in something that meant so much to me, I just didn't want that to be there. I just didn't want it. So I didn't enjoy that much. With that being said, I'm still super excited for the Rose Fields. I'm really excited to see the culmination of this. I'll probably have to reread at least The Secret Commonwealth because I can't remember a lot of what happened, but I also, that's the problem, I don't want to reread The Secret Commonwealth. That's right there as well. I'm not going to pick it up. So that's a bit of a shame. But again, I'm very excited to see the end of the series. I'm excited for what this last book holds. And yeah, it's a world that means a lot to me. So I'm going to be there for every story that world has to tell. I even have two of the little ones here. I have Lyra's Oxford and I have Once Upon a Time in the North. I think is there one more of these little guys that I don't have? I think that there's one more, but it's so cute. Look at this. Completely going off topic. This is not about the book that's set to be released, but it has inside of it, for those who don't know, it has a map. A map of Oxford. I used to live in Oxford. I don't think that this is accurate as to where I could have used it to traverse. Where I'm showing you the wrong side. Let's have a look, actually. Let's have a look. Let's see if I remember from my time living in Oxford. Corn Market, that's where I worked. If this bit here, there. If that's where the Boots is, that's where I worked. I worked at that Boots. So yeah, I guess it is fairly accurate to modern day Oxford, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, it's not about this. It's not about this one. This one's already been released. Hey, I already own this little novella. Yeah, there is definitely another one. Look, this has a little map in as well. Sorry about this, but look at how cute these are. It's not a map. It's a game. It's a game in the book. Listen, how can you not love and stan a series that has these cute little things?
Here's what I found.
Oh my god, I put my popular category. Wow. I never wear my Apple Watch because I decided after I bought it that I hate Apple as a company. But I put it on I had a job interview directly before this and I put it on to make me look cool and smart. Anyway, I love the series. I'm excited to see the culmination of the series. But obviously it's going to be released in hardback first. So it's going to be a wee while before I get around to reading it. But I'm looking forward to it when I do. So now we're into the books that I'm just excited to come out in paperback. The first one comes out literally in 6 days' time, I think. It's Privaterites by Julia Armfield. It's been in my pre-order list for ages, but I've just never had the money available to pre-order something. But I'm very excited for it to be released. I won't be reading it straight away because I have a few books I'm set to read next month. But super excited, and let's read the synopsis. From the best-selling author of Our Wives Under the Sea, a haunting, heart-wrenching novel of three sisters navigating queer love and faith at the end of the world. There's no way to bury a body in earth which is flooded. It's been raining for a long time now, for so long that the lands have reshaped themselves. Old places have been lost, arcane rituals and religions have crept back into practice. Sisters Isla, Irene and Agnes have not spoken in some time when their estranged father dies. A famous architect revered for making the New World navigable, he has long cut himself off from public life. They find themselves uncertain of how to grieve his passing when everything around them seems to be ending anywhere. As the sisters come together to clear the grand glass house that is the pinnacle of his legacy, they begin to sense that the magnetic influence of their father lives on through it. Something sinister seems to be unfolding, something related to their mother's long ago disappearance and the strangers who have always been unusually interested in their lives. Soon it becomes clear that the sisters have been chosen for a very particular purpose, one with shattering implications for their family and the imperiled world. So, I read Our Wives Under the Sea last year, and I'd wanted to read it since it came out, but I only just got around to it last year. I loved it. I think it's a little bit divisive. It's very beautiful prose, very written in a very flowery way, which I appreciate isn't necessarily everybody's bag, but it was a novella, so it was just so beautiful, and it was so painfully sad, and I don't enjoy being sad. I don't enjoy crying. I think that's made me cry more than any other book I've ever read. So beautiful, so sad, so eerie. Was one thing. And so immediately after reading Our Wives Under the Sea, I bought Julia Armfield's collection of short stories, which is called Salt Slow, the collection. I've got it over there somewhere. It's on my shelf over there, which was also very, very beautiful. So the second that I'd read those, I've been waiting for Private Rights ever since. I've been waiting for it. And again, I knew it came out in hardback. I'm not going to buy a hardback. So the fact that literally in less than a week's time, the paperback is coming out. I can't wait. I cannot wait. I think at this point I would read anything by Julia Armfield, and so I'm just super excited to see what it's going to be. And I like the fact that she writes a lot about the sea, with obviously Our Wives Under the Sea. Salt Slow had a lot of sea related stuff in there, and then this also seems to be about the sea, so that's nice. As somebody who lives upon the sea, I don't live upon the sea, but I've been born and raised right next to sea, right next to coast. So I do like that kind of books about that. There's also, I'm going to shout out a local author. 1 second. This is How Saints Die by Carmen Marcus. Carmen is a local writer, a local poet, and she very kindly gave me this for free. I worked with her on an event. I think she signed it. She signed it for me. Yeah, so this is also, it's not the same, but it is also kind of, well, it's based literally in the town that I'm from, but very coastal. So shout out Carmen Marcus, and also shout out Julia Armfield. Loved Our Wives Under the Sea. Cannot wait for Private Rights. It's going to be so sick. Next. I think this is like a TikTok popular book. It's Hungerstone by Kat Dunn, which is a retelling of Carmilla, the OG vampire story. I love Carmilla. I love the story of Carmilla. For people who don't know, you've come into this naturally. I played D&D, and my first long-term character, TRP, the Red Priestess, she was called Mirkala, and that was because I was going to call her Carmilla, but then I was like, it's going to be too obvious that she's a vampire if I do that. And I think, is Mirkala the real name of Carmilla? I can't recall. Anyway, I love Carmilla, and I'm excited for this reworking of Carmilla. Again, I think it's quite a TikTok popular book at the moment, and I don't necessarily vibe with everything that's big on TikTok. I, didn't like A Court of Thorns and Roses, Roses and Thorns. Those ones, I've read them all except from the last one, and I didn't like them. And I think there's a lot of things like Fourth Wing, not my bag. Again, Dark Academia, huge on there, not my bag. So I don't always vibe with the TikTok stuff, but I think I'm going to vibe with this one. I think from what I know about it, this does sound like my type of thing. So thank you, TikTok, for telling me about it, because I did not know that it existed. So I will read the synopsis. Lenore mentioned, is the wife of steel magnate Henry, but years into their marriage, their relationship has soured, and no child has arrived to fill the distance growing between them. Henry's ambitions take them from London to the Peak District, to the remote, imposing Nethershore estate, where he plans to host a hunting party. Lenore must work to restore the crumbling house and ready it for Henry's guests. Their future depends on it. As the couple travel through the bleak countryside, a shocking carriage accident brings the mysterious Carmilla into Lenore's life. Carmilla, who is weak and pale during the day but vibrant at night. Carmilla, who stirs up something deep within Lenore. And before long, girls from local villages fall sick, consumed by a terrible hunger. As the day of the hunt draws closer, Lenore begins to unravel, questioning the role she's been playing all these years. Torn between regaining her husband's affection and the cravings Camilla has awakened, soon Lenore will uncover a darkness in her household that will place her at terrible risk. That sounds a little different from what I recall of the plot of Carmilla. Hang on. Yeah, it is. I mean, it's a retelling. It's not a word for word. So it is slightly different from Carmilla, which still I'm super excited for. I'm actually me just going off topic onto things that are not what the video's about. I'm currently reading a retelling of The Fall of the House of Usher. I'm reading What Moves the Dead by T. Kingfisher. So I'd like a retelling. I love, hey, talking about me not vibing with the TikTok girlies and then me immediately I love a Greek retelling. I do love a Greek retelling. Song of Achilles, loved it. Circe, loved it. There was one, the OG one, way back in the day. Was it called the Penelopiad? Margaret Atwood wrote a Greek retelling a very long time ago. I read it when I was at college, and no, I read it when I worked at I was a librarian for a bit, and I read it as it was in the library, and I read it there. So I love a Greek retelling. So I like a retelling of something. So yeah, looking forward to that. Again, that's already released in hardback. Looking forward to the paperback copy, which is coming out in September. Next, we have The Lamb by Lucy Rose, which again already released in hardback. Set to come out in paperback in September. September's going to be a good month. And the synopsis is a folk tale, a horror story, a love story, an enchantment. Margot and Mama have lived by the forest ever since Margot can remember. When Margot isn't at school, they spend their quiet days together in their cottage, waiting for strangers to knock on their door. Strays, Mama calls them. Mama loves the strays. She feeds them wine, keeps them warm, then she hey, I'm making it more dramatic than it needs to be. Then she satisfies her burning appetite by picking apart their bodies. But Mama's want is stronger than her hunger sometimes, and when a white-toothed stray named Eden turns up in the heart of a snowstorm, little Margot must confront the shifting dynamics of her family, untangle her own desires, and make a bid for freedom. Cannibalism. I don't really know what more to say. I like horror, and I more specifically the niche. I like horror written by women the best. That's my jam. I don't hate all horror written by men. I was going to say I don't mind the odd Stephen King, but I actually prefer Stephen King's non-horror stories to his horror. But women writing horror, there's just something about it, and a folky horror. So yeah, I don't really know what else I have to say about that other than that sounds sick. That sounds up my alley, and I'm excited to read it. I haven't read any reviews of the hardback version, but I also just like the cover of it. The cover of the hardback. They've put on Waterstones that the cover of the paperback is to be announced, so it might not be the same as the hardback, which I kind of hope it is because I like the hardback cover. But I shan't be buying the hardback. I'm waiting for the paperback. So my last novel is Fury of the Gods by John Gwynne, which is the last book in the Bloodswornsaga. With that being said, I've not read the first 2 books in the Bloodswornsaga. I'm just excited to read the I'm just excited to read the Bloodswornsaga. I have the first one, Shadow of the Gods. I have Shadow of the Gods. And I bought this at the same time that I bought the Poppy War, actually. I bought them both at the same time. Just didn't even think to Google them, really. I just really liked the sound of them. And then realised that they were both the first in trilogies. And all 3 of the Poppy War were out. So I then bought the next two and I read all three of those and loved them, and they were great. And then I found out that the last one of this, at the time when I bought this, hadn't been released. So I just never started it because I was like, oh, there's no end in sight for the last one, and I don't want to get into like the Book of Dust situation where I can't remember what happened. I don't mind not reading books 1, 2, 3. I actually prefer it that way. I like to read something in between, but I like to be able to read them, within a few months so that it's all fresh in my mind. I'm actually struggling my way through the Wheel of Time, and I have that issue of like, I leave so long in between that I don't remember everything, but there's no way that I'm going back and reading those books. So anyway, I didn't want to get into that predicament with this, but I've been excited to read it the whole time. And I also bought this before my first proper D&D campaign, which was a Norse themed campaign, and I remembered saying to Jack, oh, I don't want to read these just yet because I don't want to spoil anything in the campaign, and he was like, no, you can read them, it's fine. And I was like, well, I'll just see when the third one comes out, and obviously the third one, it's out in hardback now, but it is coming out in paperback in October of this year, so I'll read it end of the year. But I'll read the well, I was going to say I'll read the back of this. No, I won't. No, I won't, because it's not there. All it says on the back of this is, set in a brand new Norse-inspired world. My door just went. Set in a brand new Norse-inspired world, and packed with myth, magic, and bloody vengeance, The Shadow of the Gods begins a new epic fantasy saga from best-selling author John Gwynne. I'm not going to read the back of the last one, because lest it spoils anything. But yeah, I do like Norse mythology. It's not my favourite of the mythologies. Greek's my favourite. I did classics at college. I've probably mentioned that before because I love to talk about it as if it's like what my degree's in. It's not what my degree's in, but I did enjoy classics, so I love Greek, and I do like Norse. It's just not up there. And I'm learning about pre-Roman British mythology, which we have very little information on, but that's interesting as well. But regardless, I can't wait. I've heard great things. I've heard great things about John Gwynne as just an author. I've never read anything. I've never read, is it Malice? The other series that he's got? But I've heard fantastic things about that series, and I don't think I've heard a single bad thing about the Bloodswornsaga, which just makes me very excited. I'm super excited to read it, and these covers are sick. The other two also good, like the three children of Loki, I presume. I can only presume, although I don't really know who this dragon is, but they've got the big fucking wolf, Fenrir. Who else have we got? We've got Hel. Hel's my favourite of the children of Loki. Oh, we've got fucking Jormungandr. Hell yeah. So yeah, I don't know who this one is, but we've got Jormungandr and Fenris on there. Fenris is the guy from Dragon Age. Hey. One track mind, am I right, ladies? So yes, excited about that. And that is it, I think, for today. That's it's not many. There is probably more that I just can't remember right now, that I can't think of right now. But yeah, I just love books. I love owning them. I love reading. If you can't tell, I've got bookshelf. Underneath my bed is like stacked with books, and then I've got stacks here. I'm a hoarder, and I would. It's not a problem. It's been a problem because I've moved a lot recently. I've been moving around, and it was a big problem when I lived abroad, and all of this was just in my auntie's house in boxes. Bless her, shout out Nisi. Thank you for looking after my precious books. But yeah, other than that, it's not a problem. It'll be a problem when I move again, but right now I'm not moving, so it's not a problem. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if there's anything you can think of that are similar to these that I might like, or what you're excited for, because I love also listening to people talk about books. That's all I really care about. My TikTok, book talk, that's all I watch. YouTube, I love watching booktubers, so let me know because it's my favourite subject. Fairly well.